Aloha, and welcome to SUPfm, the podcast for stand-up paddleboarders everywhere. So with no further ado, let's get out on the water and on with the show. Here are your hosts, Nick and Simon.
Good morning from a bright and sunny Portugal. It's Nick Robinson here, and we're really excited to get going with another season of stand-up paddle interviews. So we've got quite a few lined up because we've had a bit of a break. And on that break, I paddled across the Algarve, another 160 kilometer trip like I did back in 2015 with Spike Reed and Mauro Engler, which we actually talk about in one of the previous episodes. I think it was number 3. And I went with a couple of mates, and apparently it's only the second time that it's been done. So we did it once in 2015 and now again in 2020. And we're looking forward to try and find other people who are going to do it. I just really want people to do this trip because it was such an amazing trip. And we'll hopefully try and get the guys onto a podcast to explain the actual trip and the preparation, how we did it. And one of our goals here at Stand Up Paddle FM or SUPfm is to try and inspire you to do more with your paddleboard. You know, 70% of you guys out there are going out and having a leisurely paddle and enjoying it, and then, you know, messing around on the beach and stuff, maybe on a river, maybe on a lake, which is great. And that's wonderful. And it's, good exercise. But once you get to the next level where you start to do maybe 5 kilometers or 5 miles, and then you go there and back, and then you can start thinking about maybe taking a bit of kit on board and go and spend the night somewhere. So you paddle out to a little island or something and sleep the night and then come back. And then the next step is to do a full multi-day trip. So there's so much more. And, obviously you can do downwinding, you can do all kinds of crazy things. And we want to introduce you to all those types of stand-up paddle. And obviously racing, where a lot of the focus of the content online is based around racing and our amazing athletes right at the top of their game on the APP World Tour. So if you want to find out more about the APP World Tour, just check out our interview with Mr. Boxford, who is the CEO of the APP World Tour. Obviously this year that's been a little bit delayed due to COVID, but next year they'll be back and firing. And you can see some races are starting up now. A lot of virtual races happened over COVID. So there is no excuse to get on the water and start racing or to start paddling more. Anyway, well, this is not a rev session. We're just trying to inspire you. You don't have to do it. It's wonderful. But we've got quite a few amazing episodes lined up ready for us. So every week we'll be coming back at you with some more exciting people. Simon, how excited are you about season 3?
Yes, I am really excited about season 3. We've got some great guests, and the gap between seasons isn't as massive as the one between 1 and 2. It took us 5 years, I think, to launch our second season, but they're coming thick and fast now.
Yeah, it sure did take us a long time to get season 2 together, but now, season 3 is on its way. It's going well, and we're kicking off season 3 with an interview with the RNLI, which is basically the US Coast Guard for the United Kingdom. RNLI stands for the Royal Navy Lifeboat Institution, and we dig deep into the history of the institution, etc. But the reason we got the RNLI on was because both of us were looking at lockdown and then the resurgence after lockdown of people getting back onto the water and watching how people just yearned for nature and just took up stand-up paddleboarding with a passion. All the stand-up paddleboards were sold out, etc., as you've heard, no doubt, on this podcast and many others. What we were concerned about is the fact that a lot of new paddleboarders, which is great, and we welcome you to the sport, it's wonderful to have you, is that a lot of people are not quite sure of what to do regarding the conditions and the winds, and we wanted to keep people safe. So during lockdown, or just a bit after, what Simon and I have been doing on this break as well is building a SUP safety course. It's basically a water safety course designed with stand-up paddle in mind, and it's really comprehensive. It's not that expensive. If you sign up to our newsletter, you'll be able to get a $10 off, but we'll drop a link in there. Actually, you can go to www.supfm.show/10, and you'll be able to get that $10 off our $37 course. So the fact is that what we're trying to do here, put money aside, obviously we need to try, and Simon and I need to eat, and it's important that we try and make a little bit of money to keep this alive because, we want SUPfm to succeed and to carry on. And it can't do that without a little bit of cash investment. This is the only way we can start to do it. But at the end of the day, we really want to help you guys out there to be safer as well. So it's a win-win situation. And we're investing in a lot of guys around the world who are helping us launch this product, like, the Stand-Up Journal and Paddle Logger, fantastic supporters of ours. We really thank you guys for helping us out. And a lot of our other guests we're reaching out to try and spread the word of this course, because we really want you to be safe out there. We really do. So bear that in mind when you listen to this podcast with the RNLI, and we thank Nick Ayers for coming along and representing the RNLI. Without further ado, Nick Ayers. Mr. Nick Ayers, thank you so much for joining us from the RNLI.
Hi, Nick.
It's great to have you.
Thanks for having us on. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I mean, we were just chatting a little bit earlier on how we feel here at SUPfm how important it is to address the issue of SUP safety and water safety because of all the new paddlers surging into the waters. So obviously you guys share that sentiment, right?
Definitely. Yeah, we've seen a huge increase this summer. Stand-up paddleboarding, kayaking, it's all just taken to the next level. I don't even think you can buy one online. I think they're all sold out here in the UK. It's that social distance activity, isn't it, that everyone's trying to find, and SUP, it had been the fastest growing aquatic sport, and this has just accelerated being in this pandemic.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. I mean, and not just the UK either. I mean, we interviewed guys from Hawaii and from Australia, and they're all sold out as well. So it'll be interesting to see how long this surge lasts. But
yeah, it will be.
So where are you based, and did you grow up there?
So I'm based on the east coast of England, in a town called Alton Broad, and it's most people know Norwich Football Club, and it's basically just straight out onto the coast from there. It's the most easterly point of Britain, so we're right by the water in the North Sea, and I outlook onto the southern Broad, so the Suffolk and Norfolk Broads, so inland water, and I'm right at the river mouth that comes out of Lowestoft.
Mm-hmm. So you've got lots of water to play with there.
Yeah, I'm pretty lucky. I've got a good garage downstairs full of the trailer's racked full of boards and crafts, and I could be on the water within sort of 5 minutes on inland, and then out at the coast within 10. So yeah, I'm pretty lucky and to be this close and have everything so of ease. Not much sort of transportation to and from.
Yeah, I'm super jealous because it takes me 25 minutes to get on the water here from where I am.
Yeah, it's pretty nice, especially in the colder winter months, like training in November, December, January. Well, pretty much most of the time in the UK, you could be bored on the trailer straight upstairs in a hot shower. So yeah, it's pretty ideal. My family sort of grew up here. We moved around quite a lot. My dad is a professional swimming coach, so he was following his coaching path, and like most sort of coaching professions, 10 years is kind of your sort of limit, and then you move on to the next place. So we sort of went around the country. I say around the country, we were sort of Hertfordshire, Sussex sort of way, but always coming back here or heading down to Cornwall on sort of family trips, and Devon for this odd surf trip with my dad. So, always sort of been exposed to this area, and then down in Sussex as well.
And then obviously through your father's swimming, there was a logical link to water and water
Definitely.
sports, right?
Yeah. I think I could
was he
swim
like
before
throwing
I
you
could
in the water at a young age?
Yeah. I'd probably swim before I could walk. So, Mum and Dad used to own a swimming school, so it's pretty much on the agenda right from day one. Get in the water, get involved, and learn how to have fun in the water, and then gradually expose myself to the water in the ocean and the sea. And Dad always followed like a life-saving background anyway, so he was keen to sort of make me and my brother sort of go through the life-saving club at Perranporth. They used to run like a summer cadet program, so getting that kind of safety knowledge on board. Because at the time we were living in Hertfordshire, so landlocked county, inland county. So we're pretty thankful for our parents to educate us about the water and how to respect it and knowing what to do.
Mm-hmm. And where's Perranporth? Is that a good way?
It's sort of North Cornwall, northwest, southwest of England, on the north coast of Cornwall. Big surf beach and pretty treacherous spot actually.
Oh really? So it wasn't all good times as a kid going on wonderful holidays and things. It was hard work, was it?
In terms of the surf, yeah, I guess my mum and dad didn't hold back. But yeah, it was it wasn't kind of like your bucket and spade Spanish holiday trip to the Med or anything like that. It was we're going to Cornwall for 2 weeks, rain or shine. We are going to the beach, kind of mentality, and surf and yeah, live on the beach for the 14 days or so. And then
That
it was
sounds
back to
awesome.
yeah, it was pretty good, pretty good, pretty
Yeah.
good.
So,
Good 2 weeks.
so what did you start off with? I mean, did you, because you were swimming, and
Yeah.
did you go through the life-saving route and proceed to like body surfing and then paddleboarding
So
or like on your knees,
yeah,
kneeboarding?
it was mostly swimming because we were living in Hertfordshire for a good sort of 10, 12 years. It was through swimming clubs, and then when we moved to Suffolk to Sussex, I was then sort of exposed to open water swimming and following that competitive route. Of open water swimming, which then that sort of side pathed me onto life saving through beach lifeguarding. And then when I got into beach lifeguarding, that's probably when I found paddleboarding, stand-up paddleboarding, and sort of all the other types of craft that you can get on in the sea and in the surf and in the water.
We here at SUPfm love to dwell on that moment when you first placed your feet on a stand-up board. Can you remember the time?
I can, yeah, and like many people, it's sort of like a love-hate relationship, just falling off all the time. And I just remember my friend sort of saying, you need to learn this, you need to get used to it because everyone's going to be doing it. And yeah, I remember my first time surfing, stand-up surfing, and then later on being exposed to stand-up paddleboarding and getting on a race board and falling off and spending endless time trying to keep going and getting back on your feet again.
Yeah. So what would your advice be for first-time paddleboarders?
Get the right instruction right from the start. Make sure you're enjoying it, of course, but you need to learn what to do when you're in trouble, what to do when you fall off. A lot of the time, when you go down to a school, a surf school, or a stand-up paddleboard school, you'll be wearing a buoyancy aid, leash, and just getting on and off the board is quite a task, and especially if you're not from a sort of a water-based, I guess, background. You just need to know how to sort of remain calm and push yourself up onto the board because it can be quite tough, especially when you've got a paddle in your hand and knowing which to let go or hold onto, or figuring out which way the wind's going and the conditions and things like that. So get the right tuition and don't be afraid to sort of spend that time, sort of baby steps,
Absolutely, yeah. And then the right board, a nice wide board for people to start off with. Because like you mentioned, starting on a race board, I mean, that's always tricky.
Yeah, exactly.
But,
I was sort of thrown into it from friends, really. Yeah.
I mean, my first time paddleboarding, I absolutely hated it. And
Yeah.
because it's because I was out in a windy environment with no wetsuit and the water was cold, and I was just too scared to fall off. And I
Yeah.
didn't fall off, but still, yeah.
Totally the same. I think because I was surfing as well at the time, and paddleboarding was then coming in, and it was kind of like that mentality from surfers. So yeah, I was trying to do it secretly at the time
Yeah.
from my surfing friends and that. But yeah, getting frustrated about getting up, and I think later on when I was discovering that wider boards, and actually it's a lot nicer when it's calm, idyllic conditions, sunny, hardly any wind. That's when it's the real enjoyment comes out.
Beautiful time. So, how did you start your relationship with the RNLI?
So I started my relationship with the RNLI through the lifeguard service. So the RNLI runs a seasonal beach lifeguard service that's run. It's run by the RNLI, but the councils or the landowners will ask the RNLI to provide a lifeguard service. It's done on a risk sort of basis, really. My relationship started off with the seasonal lifeguard service in Norfolk. At the time, I was a paid council beach lifeguard in Suffolk, and me and my friend sort of heard the rumours that the RNLI are sort of working with the council and sort of coming up with a plan and negotiating. So before that was sort of agreed, we were like, well, maybe we should just go up the coast and start our sort of RNLI journey, if you like, and sort of be a casual beach lifeguard at a place called Galston in Norfolk. And we did a couple of shifts with them that first summer. And then within the next year, the RNLI were sort of knocking on the door again to Suffolk, to the council. So it's kind of, it started off by just volunteering. I think I started off by volunteering as a lifeguard. And then within a few weeks, they took me on as a paid lifeguard for a couple of days a week in between my other shifts with the council. And then the following year, I think me and my friend worked pretty much full time with the RNLI lifeguard service. So from March, you start your training, so March all the way through to sort of September, and then doing the odd day off here and there with the council. That's pretty much my RNLI journey. That was probably back in 2009 when I sort of started that off.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, for people who don't know out there, the RNLI is the United Kingdom's version of the US Coast Guard, or the NSRI in South Africa, with its full name being Royal National Lifeboat Institution. So could you explain a little bit about the type of organization it is and what its mission is?
Yeah, so it first was founded in 1824 by a chap called Sir William Hillary. And it was first initially started as the National Institute of the Preservation of Life from Shipwreck, and it was the organization was started off by rescuing people in need. He realized that there wasn't any kind of joined up rescue service, and there were lots of fatalities out on the coast, and he wanted to do something about it. So that's when it sort of started. The RNLI sort of firstly, he came up with the plan, the mission, the values quite early on, and it was to share water safety, drowning prevention initiatives, and really sort of forward thinking. We still stick by them today. A lot of our work is done behind the scenes to educate people before they even arrive at the coast. Our international team as well, that was set out when Sir William Hillary started up the RNLI. A lot of the work he wanted to do was share the things that we were doing in the UK to not so fortunate countries, that have a drowning problem.
I guess across the colonies around the world, like Australia and South Africa.
Around the world, like parts of Africa, Bangladesh, Thailand, and it's still going. We still have a very good international team going to those countries, developing initiatives. And then it was only in the early sort of 2000s that the RNLI sort of expanded its work out to the lifeguard service, and offered a paid professional beach lifeguard service for councils, for landowners that weren't providing a sort of a sufficient supervision at those beaches. It's an institution that is run by volunteers, basically. We have a huge amount of volunteers in the institution. We have paid staff as well to run the organization. The organization split into regions. So I work in the North and East region, covering the lifeboat stations and the lifeguard services in that patch. And we have about
so you're a regional water safety lead, right? That's it. A full-time job?
Yeah. And there's loads of different arms of the RNLI, through fundraising. So we rely on donations. We don't get direct government support in terms of money. So the lifeboats are, our own. We build them our own. That's right for the part of the coast that we need from voluntary donations. Our lifeguard service is slightly different, or it's partly funded by the local authority or the landowner. A lot of the work that the RNLI has done is through generous donations, wills, grants.
Would that ever change? I mean, because obviously the Royals have quite an invested interest in the organisation, but will the government ever change and start funding?
Who knows? I don't think. Who knows? To be honest, we're really proud of what we do. We're really proud of our supporters, our volunteers, the ethos. So I wouldn't think that would change. The lifeguard service, like I say, is something that's always in development in terms of the way that we get our money to provide the training, the equipment. That's a service on behalf of the council. So we are getting money in that way from those from that side of the institution.
And just the scale of it. I mean, I just saw on Wikipedia that there's 238 lifeboat stations operating about 444 lifeboats. Is that about right?
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah. You've done your research. Yeah, we've got a huge fleet of lifeboats, and like I said, it depends on what part of the coast they're on. The topography, the beach setup or the harbour setup, how far they need to go, the class in terms of what they'd normally be pulling back into the station or into the harbour. We have a rescue hovercraft at some of the beaches and some of the locations around the UK that have, mud flats or soft sand or really shallow water. We have inshore rescue boats, particularly really quick and nimble around those surf sort of beaches and sort of rocky locations. But then we also explored an E-class lifeboat that operates on the River Thames, so a jet boat engine, and that was our first sort of jet boat engine class of a lifeboat that we designed, and that is on the London River Thames.
Sounds very James Bondish.
Yeah, it's pretty groovy. It can turn on a sixpence. It can reach real high speeds. But the latest one that we're really proud of is the Shannon lifeboat class. That's using the same sort of jet propelled engine. It's agile, maneuverable in all weathers, self-righting, and it's one of it can reach up to 25 knots. So it's a real efficient way of life-saving.
But in addition to those 238 lifeboat stations, more or less how many beaches do you patrol with the lifeguard saving organization?
So on a normal summer, we patrol over 250 beaches nationally. Currently, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we're at 177 beaches throughout the UK and Ireland, and that was just reduced this year in March, like I say, due to the pandemic.
And does the bathing season change over the years, or is it a set thing every single year, set date?
We review it on a year-by-year basis, really. It's down to the landowner, down to the local authority or the private landowner decision. We put in our recommendations if we see different trends. We line up with sort of the Easter holidays or major bank holidays, so we know that those sort of weekends are covered if possible. Some areas run a weekend service up to sort of Whitsun weekend, bank holiday. Some locations will provide a Easter cover service and a late October service, and we have one full-time all year round lifeguarded beach.
Because it varies quite a lot in Portugal as well, so that explains why. Could you share with us some statistics about recent rescues and try and relate that to pre-lockdown figures, maybe with the year before or the year before that?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, we're sort of now at that stage where we're now looking at our trends for this summer to see what we've been going out to mostly. But in terms of this summer, like before we said, we've seen a huge increase in those stand-up paddleboard rescues and incidents. People being cut off by the tide. So your everyday sort of walkers. So much more in terms of sort of localized incidents. Where I say localized, walking, swimming, stand-up paddleboarding, kayaking, and people using inflatables, which we kind of predicted. If you sort of say what's easily accessible, people can order it on Amazon or wherever and get it by the next day, and they can go out on the water and access their spot. Whereas normally we'd see a lot more sort of fishing activity or people using boats, jet skis. That would be our sort of normal summer kind of call outs.
And is there any way to get a hold of the manufacturers and say by law that you need to dish out this RNLI messaging or anything? Do you understand what I'm saying? At the point of sale, then people can get taught water safety.
Yeah, we're doing a lot of work this summer, especially at Sparked. We need to do more, and through our partners. So the RNLI sit on the National Water Safety Forum. So it's sort of recommended by the World Health Organization that each country has a drowning prevention plan strategy for their individual countries. And they should bring in all of those life-saving organizations, so like the Coast Guard, the RNLI, Royal Life-Saving Society, all those other organizations that do something to help prevent drowning. And we're working really closely with the National Water Safety Forum to come up with different ways that we can put recommendations in place for those manufacturers. It could just be in the instructions, actually on the device, whether it's an inflatable or a stand-up paddleboard. But then locally, what we're doing is we're rolling out a local ambassador scheme. So we're trying to encourage local businesses, waterside venues to share our messaging. Bit by bit, we can really sort of educate the people actually selling the inflatables or boogie boards or stand-up paddleboards by delivering a life-saving message by, it could be something really simple by saying, if you're going down to the lifeguarded beach and you see the orange windsock flying, don't take it out on the inflatable. Or if you do, attach it to a piece of rope, attach it to someone on land and hold on at all times. Some really sort of simple life-saving messaging. So we're doing quite a lot of work behind the scenes, but then it also at the other end, when the consumer's there buying that piece of product.
And are the companies involved in selling these things, are they cooperating and doing well?
Yeah, there's a big one the other week. John Lewis actually changed the way that they sort of advertise their inflatables, any kind of inflatable. Putting in simple messaging saying, do not use this in open water. It's gone completely on the other side of not even displaying anything to now saying, do not use this in open water situations. So things are happening.
Nick, when you say inflatables, do you mean inflatables stand-up paddleboards, or are you just talking about?
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, I should be more specific. Inflatables is in, like your inflatable rings or inflatable boats or unicorns for the sense. Those ones that are not designed for open water situations.
And how could we forget a pink flamingo, of course?
Exactly. My favorite.
Yeah. Everyone's got to have one of those.
Yeah.
But obviously it's a massive worry. And could you share some stories about rescuing paddlers?
Yeah, rescuing stand-up paddleboarders.
Yes, in particular.
I would say there's been a few. I mean, when I was working on the beach, there's been the odd rescue where it's been quite amusing, but then also quite scary. Near to getting really serious. And a lot of the situations are that they don't actually know how to paddle the stand-up paddleboard or knowing how to get back onto the paddleboard itself. And it's really quite scary because, they put themselves in this situation. They could get onto it on a pontoon nice and easily, fall off and not even have a Scooby-Doo how to get back on. There's been one recently that's been quite tragic, and it's something that the way that we're looking at our approach to our safety messaging. So at the RNLI, we always say, before you go out, make sure you look at the tides, or if you haven't even done it before, get professional help before you even go out on the water. Always wear your leash and hold onto your board if you get into trouble. So that first one, always wear your leash. We're just working with our governing bodies, so like British Canoe Union, ISA, and the British BSUPA. The way that we sort of message that in the sea and in the open water, wearing your leash is fine, but when you go onto a river situation where that leash can become a bit more of a hazard, if you're wearing just an ankle leash and the board goes one way, you go the other side of a pontoon or a boat, you then end up becoming trapped, especially if the water's going in the direction that you're moving. So we're just working at the specifics of, if you're wearing a leash, recommend to wear a leash, a waist leash, so you can easily grab hold of it and release it, than your ankle strap.
It's also a worry in tidal areas, isn't it? In coastal wetlands where you have moored boats and the tide is streaking up and down. I remember that something happened in Sydney Harbour a few years ago. A young girl died, sadly. Exactly the same scenario. Her board went one side and she was the other side. Because it feels... I mean, we have a coastal wetland here where I used to train people in Faro, in Portugal. And so many, we're just paddling innocently past these moored boats And my mind is on full alert when we're going past those, because you've got 6 trainees there, and they have no idea what could go wrong.
No, that's the thing. It's trying to get that message across that even really simple stuff, Nick, like saying, the open water, the water is always moving. It's not like a swimming pool where it's just, the depth, the sides. It's the top level is moving depending on if there's swimmers and whatnot. But open water, you've got wind, you've got tide, you've got undercurrents, and then if you put a boat in there, you've got the draft. So you've got lots of different bodies of water and sort of movements in that. So we're just trying to get the most simple messaging out there, and I think this summer's really proved it. The way that we've managed to get those safety messages across on loads of different platforms. You could even say that we're reaching a new audience, a new visitor, and that's what we're trying to capture. But yeah, going back to the leash, we had a fatality the other week, unfortunately, and it was that same sort of scenario where the board goes one way, the casualty goes the other way, in those tidal locations. So yeah, we just need to be really clear on what types of leash we recommend in that different types of water.
Yeah, waste, quick release mechanisms, and obviously we can't really address it all in this podcast because it's not relaxed. But yeah, so we here at SUPfm, we've created a water safety online course to address all this. And obviously you have excellent articles on your website on RNLI.org, right?
Yes, that's it. Yep.
So can you talk us through that a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. So some of the other messages that we sort of always say, like in most sort of activity, we always say carry a means of calling for help. So on your person, so whether that's a VHF radio, very high frequency radio, that you can contact the Coast Guard, the emergency services on, or on a fully charged mobile phone. If you're taking the latter, the mobile phone, putting it inside a waterproof pouch, wearing it on your body, on your person, and not on the craft or in the craft or on top of the craft. Easily accessible, so slipped inside the buoyancy aid or into your wetsuit. And you can download various apps. There's lots of apps out there, like Paddle Logger. There's SafeTracks app that we do a lot of work with the RYA, so the Royal Yacht Association, Yachting Association. And SafeTracks is a really fantastic app, especially if you're in the UK. It's free to download. You enter your details, your emergency contact details. You can do it's called a sail plan. So you just put your location, your point-to-point location, or your route, and how long it would normally take you, and if your plan is over time, it will make a contact to your known emergency contact, and the text will come up saying, have you heard from Nick? Is he back on land? If that emergency contact doesn't get back to the Coast Guard to say yes, he's fine, then the Coast Guard will make that call. They'll know your last known position if your phone has died, or they'll pick you up straight away. And the RNLI, if you're out on the coast, will then, or the other independent lifeboats or the lifeguards, will be able to pinpoint your exact location. So it really sort of takes that search out of the search and rescue of the situations. And then there's a few other things. If you are going into the water, always tell someone else back on dry land. They can raise the alarm if you're overdue. Always check the weather forecast and tide times, the relevant information to where you're going. Always wear a personal flotation device. So there's lots out there, buoyancy aids or waist belts, life jackets, and always try and paddle with someone else. That's what we always say. It's much more enjoyable paddling with someone else. We all know that we need some personal space, but in the water, open water, especially if you're new to the sport, just go with someone else. Go with a friend.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Well, that's all excellent advice. So, Nick, thank you very much for coming on to SUPfm and providing an overview of what the RNLI does and how to keep much safer out there in the water. I hope it helps.
Yeah, no, thanks for your time, Nick. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's a pleasure. And how can people donate to the RNLI, by the way?
So you can jump onto the website, rnli.org, and there's lots of different ways that you can do it. There's a big sort of orange button at the top that says donate now. And you can donate as much or as little as you want. You can sign up to be a member. You can sign up to be an ambassador. You can make monthly donations. You can even put your name on a lifeboat if you like. So there's lots of different ways that there's to make a donation.
Thank you so much, and here's to a safer winter season. I hope it all goes well.
Yeah, hopefully. Thank you. Cheers, Nick.
Thank you for listening to SUPfm, the #1 podcast for stand-up paddlers wherever you are. If you like what you've heard, please leave us a review on iTunes. Until then, we'll see you on the water.